me at Cello, Cello. You had me at Cello. You had me at Cello. Oh, you had me at Cello. Hey, everybody. 5 o'clock on a Friday again. Time for another episode of Cello Chat. With me today is Trace Johnson. Super excited to talk to you today, Trace. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Uh, Frankly, this time of the semester, pretty busy, but I'm still smiling.
Cool. Very good.
Wow. Yeah, sometimes I mean, it's always busy, and then other times it just gets a little crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah, this smile seems to get plastered onto your face.
Right.
What am I
Uh,
doing here?
all
But
right.
yeah.
So your background, your story, how'd you get started on cello? And then what was your educational journey and how'd you get to where you are now?
Cool. I don't know if you can hear, but my mother is she's a flute player and she's practicing for opera next week. And so if you hear any flute in the background, she's the one who got me started on cello when I was really little. She always wanted to play cello growing up, I think, and she got me started on it when I was 6, and I resisted for many years. And somewhere around early high school, I kind of flipped a switch and got started to get pretty serious and decided to go to music school. And at the time, I'd been studying at a boarding school in Michigan, Interlochen Arts Academy. Um, and yeah, everything else kind of fell into place after that. I did my schooling in Cleveland and ended up in Florida at the Lynn Conservatory for a master's program and a certificate program. And I just began working a lot there. We found ourselves in COVID for a while, and I ended up here back in Madison, my hometown, and I'm just finishing up my doctorate right now.
All right. And a stint in New York as well.
That's right. Yeah, I was there for about a year over COVID, and I got my hands in a lot of different projects while I was there, more than I was expecting to, but really wonderful, obviously wonderful community of musicians there.
All right. All right. Well, and I'm going to definitely recommend everybody check out your website. Really nice website and read your bio. But if you don't mind, your primary teachers.
My primary teachers have been Tanya Carey, Melissa Kraut, teaches at CIM, and David Cole at Lynn Conservatory. And I studied for a year with Uri Vardy here in Madison, and as a doctoral student as well with Professor Perry Karp. But kind of throughout my life, I've also been trying to I guess sort of unofficially, I've worked a lot with the cellist Joe Johnson, who is going to be new faculty at Eastman School next year.
Nice, nice. So when did the Suzuki training fit into that?
I did my training in 2015, the summer. That was when I did my first book. And Tanya Carey was, she's just such an incredible, just superstar teacher and teacher trainer. Different things, but both really difficult to do well. And yeah, so that was back then. And then I did my book too, and it was 2021 maybe. And I did it online virtually in the summer before I started my doctorate. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I have to admit, I think I've lost count of how many Tanya Carey students I've had on this, and she's just amazing, just a force of nature. So, how does your how I like to ask this of the people who also have Suzuki training. I mean, because there's teaching a very young student, starting out a student or something, but I dare say all of the people with Suzuki training have said that it infuses all of their approach to teaching. So I'm wondering, how do you think your Suzuki training informs your teaching in general?
I think the book one training is maybe some of the most important time spent in music that I've had, period. I think that learning what fundamentals are and how they play into everything else that we do, whether as an intermediate player or a very super advanced, it comes back to things that you learn at the ground level in book one. And so a lot of the things that I learned about in book one, sound production at the most basic fundamental level, how to teach it, what works, what inherent problems there are to creating sound, and getting a good starting point to develop your skills as a cellist, is just absolutely invaluable. I mean, I also distinctly remember, at the time I did my book one, I just won this audition to go on the road with a pop group called Barrage. And after the book one training, I felt like I'd never been playing better. All the stuff that I had learned in the book one filtered into what I was doing, and it gave me this whole nother perspective on what was happening in something like, Haydn D major concerto, and just seeing like how those fundamentals play out in a heavy duty piece. So I think it was really, really important for me.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's sometimes, I don't know, when we remind a student the importance of the fundamentals and we go back to some fundamental, but you can kind of sometimes see their face drop. It's like, oh, I have to go back in for the remediation. Or something. Like, no, you shouldn't see it that way. It's yeah, that foundation is so critical. So I like that. That was very well said.
Cool.
Now, you seem to have embraced the what I almost kind of think of as a big tent love for music, in that you play unaccompanied stuff, you play chamber music, you play orchestral, you play modern, you play old stuff, you play pop, and you teach and you compose. Have you, is like, did that evolve? Was mother of invention, what necessity the mother of invention? I would get that idiom right. Or have you always been a, kind of like a thought of ways to apply yourself in kind of a versatile mindset?
Sure, that's a good question. I think that I've always had a lot of interests musically. As a young guy, teenager, I was playing guitar and playing bass, and you see some instruments back here, and I got some of those back then. And I've always just kind of been interested in stuff outside of classical music. And even when I was at conservatory, I felt like I didn't totally belong because I wasn't just had the blinders up and was just wanting to do Schubert all the time. Although I love Schubert. So I think that those interests have created gravity into other areas, musically speaking. I've been working with music production software for a long time, and now at this point, I'm incorporating that knowledge into a lot of different areas of my life, whether it's composing music for other artists or other musicians, or ad agencies, or trying to work with a composer on a new piece and creating a score from scratch remotely. I've sort of been able to, as I've grown with the software, seen and been able to find a lot of different applications for understanding how to use it and how it can help certain musical situations that we find ourselves in. And I think also more than that, I grew up in the presence of some musicians, including my own mother, who started doing a lot of different things all on their own in a time when there a lot of creative problem solving to, I guess you could call it, becoming a musical entrepreneur wasn't super established yet. So I grew up seeing her do a lot of different kinds of things, and I I think that's definitely transferred into the way I think about, what a life in music can look like and feel like. And there are a lot of different activities that I engage with, but at the end of the day, they all come down to collaboration and working with people. And I think sharing ideas is a big piece of what being a musician is anyway. So I don't feel like it's been a stretch to get involved in a lot of these other areas, but I do realize that it is kind of all over the place. And I don't know. We'll see where that takes me.
Yeah. No, I think that's the road that a number of my students watching this series and maybe other young folks, of course nobody has a crystal ball and they don't know where their own path is going to take them. And sometimes when a door opens up, we can either just be shy about trying it out, or anxious or something like that. And I think the attitude of, what do they call it in improv comedy? It's yes and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You seem to have that spirit in spades,
Well,
including. Go ahead.
I was just thinking about David Bowie, who's a musician I really admire a lot, and he would say, he has this quote of saying, if you feel like you're comfortable and you're not in the deep end, then you got whatever you got to do to get there. That's the place where you're really going to thrive. And I'm not sure I totally believe that, but I think it's a great practice,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. And I think we know what he's saying too. There was a Starker master class where he said something that I at least think of as somewhat equivalent, where he was talking about the dangers of, like almost like climbing a mountain. And it can be kind of, there's some people who look at how far they've come and they go, hey, look at that, I've come this far, and they take their foot off the gas, sort of thing. And then there's other people who look at how far there is to go and they go, oh, I'll never make it, and they take their foot off the gas. And in a way, striking, you want to find, in some ways, I think, inspiration from the glass being half empty and half full.
Yeah, I think it's important to do that. It's important to realize how stark the professional world can be, and it is something that definitely keeps me up at night sometimes. Like, man, what's going to happen this year? Something needs to change. But also, when you reach out into the universe and try and create and bring opportunities to you, and you can do that in a lot of different ways. Usually, there is some type of response, and whether you're aware of it happening or not is sort of a separate issue. But
It's true.
it does happen, and I think it's really good to be armed with information and to have a really good um, um, sort of heat-seeking interest in the way different professional organizations function and work and come together. I'm thinking about orchestras or orchestra unions, or university setting, or even how you perceive your work as a student and the work of your teacher. And I've always had teachers, and I'm always going to feel like a student when I'm around my teachers. And I really have a lot of uh, admiration and respect for the instructors that I've had, and how they've been able to sustain such a positive outlook in the world and on the world and in their music making after decades and decades of performing and playing, and they're still interested and still feel like they're learning. And I think that that's something that I always want to try to be a lifelong learner, and
Yeah.
whether that's something that's bad or something that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And by which you mean, embracing the mistakes as learning opportunities too.
Absolutely. I think we probably learn the most from our mistakes, even
Yeah.
though it doesn't feel good.
I
But
know, I know. Hey, so I want to talk to you also about your compositions. You do composing and arranging, and you have a fair number of examples on your website and on YouTube. It seems more, I mean, I was impressed by the breadth of compositions, and you've had some real successes as well. And I know, again, my current student studio watching this, and surely others as well. It's kind of like, I think of it, things like composition and improvisation is another one of those doors where some students go, that would be cool if I could make that my own as well, but I'm not so sure I'm up to it. So have you always had a desire to compose, or was that another kind of happenstance, fortuitous thing?
I think I've always been interested in creating music and just kind of thinking about improvisation as more something I can relate to, rather than like this activity that I'm putting up on a pedestal and like, can I do that?
Yeah.
My father is a pretty renowned jazz bass player, and so I grew up listening to his records a lot, and have always kind of incorporated jazz and improvised music into just, I don't know, it's just music that I really like and I listen to it. No, I don't have a formal background in jazz theory or improv, and I can't get up on stage and play all the right chord changes inside of a fast bebop number. But I think having a good foundation with the piano helps. Just
Yeah.
messing around with the piano for a while opens up a lot of doors. And if there are some songs you like, learning how to play just the chords on the piano can lead to, oh, I'm going to try that out on my instrument, just to see where it goes. And there's so much great freeware software now that you can record into the computer or onto your phone and just like make an acapella video, or so many fun things you can do. And then all before you know it, you've got like some pretty cool music that you've made on your own, and that you can share with other people, or that you can share with other musicians that you want to play with and see if they are interested in working with you. I think that everyone, a lot of people who say, I can't improvise, I can't improvise. It's that little part in your head when you have an earworm stuck and you're walking on the sidewalk somewhere and you start to deviate from the melody a little bit and you start doing your own thing. That's why I don't believe people when they say that, because everybody does this. So if you can do that, then you can do it on a cello, or you can do it on a violin, or on a kazoo, or anything, what have you. That inherent it's kind of a childish instinct to want to just kind of like goof off and sing, sing it a little bit different in your own way. That's where that's coming from.
I love that. I really love that. There was a conversation just earlier this week with a student about, this field of music. If we let it, it can create enormous amounts of anxiety and stress and be this terrifying thing. But then you see some people in the field, and to them it's the exact opposite. It's like, oh, good, I get my music again, you know? And to find that childish joy is, I mean, that's a big part of it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I played with a concert with Yo-Yo Ma last year. He came and played Dvorak Concerto at Sarasota Orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, that guy, he's just the nicest, warmest person ever. And he all let us, the cello section, take turns, playing his cello, and we all got to hang out with him backstage before a concert. And he was just goofy. He was such a goofy guy. He had this little stuffed animal that was like a duck, and he was just going up to people and going quack, 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 like, right into the, and it was like the most bizarre, but it also like really dissipated any like,
Yeah, I
music.
know. Yo-yo.
Yeah. And it was actually really amazing and just really put everyone at ease. And he's such a communicative performer and he has so much energy to give. And after the applause, he went around to every female performer on stage and gave them one of his flowers. And he's
Oh,
just he's that's the kind of guy he is. But I remember how silly he was. And like I mean, I'm sure like at that level, you don't worry too much about playing Dvorak concerto anymore, but he wasn't, it was like beyond the performance. He was more just like commenting on like, yeah, this is what we do. Let's goof off. Like, let's have some fun. Like, here we are, you know? And I'm gonna remember that forever, I think.
that's very cool. I love that story. Now, I'm just curious. I want to ask you about motivating students to practice, but compositionally, are there, do you see your compositions as having like, what are the primary influences?
Um, my main influences, I think, come from some kind of rock and roll areas.
Hmm.
I like some like post rock music that is really expansive. Explosions in the Sky,
Hmm.
there's Mogwai, and people like Aphex Twin who have these just really like long ambient tracks where there's a lot of
Hmm.
growth over a long period of time, at least in kind of cinematic movie music that I've made. I think that also, I really like groove a lot. I'm pretty interested in um, just creating something that you kind of bop your head to. But I don't know, major influences. I sang in choir for 4 years as a young student, so I think I have kind of vocal sound in my ear just in general, and like to be able to sing the music that I'm going to play. And also, I think I just generally like listening to high level string playing. So if I can, I have any power to control the quality of it. Just make sure that I'm really trying to do a great job from a playing point of view. I don't know. I love Arvo Pärt a lot. I think that his sound, the minimalistic sound that he was able to really coin, was something that has stayed with me.
Hmm.
I'm not writing as much these days as I have in the past, but I will say that when I sit down to write music, I'm not getting out a pen or a paper or a staff and writing out everything right out of my head. Usually I get a basis for something and I start to improvise for a while and I record something and have something I like, and then I go on from there. I think that there's a misconception that composition needs to be this extremely formulaic, scientific process, and it's just not true. And there are plenty of examples of super successful musicians who don't write with the pen and paper. And we can look to pop music like people like Michael Jackson, who just had everything in their head and they just went into the studio and they knew what they wanted. And that's a whole nother level of virtuosity, even though it's different than writing like a symphony or something, but it's the same level of artistic ability and virtuosity to be able to have those ideas, flesh them out, and do it all on their own. So yeah, I think that a big inspiration and influence has been from people who didn't go about it in a very, this is the path kind of way. People who found their own path and did it their own way. And there's ownership and power from doing things your own way as well. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also well said. So the question I ask everybody, motivating students to practice. We've all had students who would appreciate a little boost in how to motivate themselves, get out that instrument and practice more to get where they know they want to get. What are some of your approaches to helping to motivate the students who need the help?
Well, they say one of the hardest parts about practicing is getting it out of the case. We spend a lot of time thinking about what we should be doing, and then when we finally do it, we've gone through this process of making it so much harder for ourselves than just sitting down and doing it. I think, I've been experimenting with lifting weights this year. Just something new. I've never done it in my life, and I've learned a few things already from doing it. But one thing that they say right at the onset of it, I'm doing it out of this book, is like, you got to be true to yourself for your goals. Like, you have to be consistent. Your word is the most important thing. So I think just finding consistency in making positive affirmations, like, I am a student of the cello. I'm going to do my best today. It might not be perfect, but I'm going to do my best. I think another, God, who is it? Really incredible actor was saying that, one of the most important things to have a successful artistic career is consistency. If you can just be consistent and practice and show up every day, that is going to go farther than, I grew up around, when I was at CIM, for example, there were people around me that were just shooting off. And, Daniel Trifonov was there as a student when I was there, and some really incredible string players who already had careers and were winning big competitions. And some of them are still out there performing and have careers, and others have gone on to do other things. But my career has been steady, but it's been consistent. And I think if you can have a lot of small goals, making small goals for yourself, and small achievable goals that you can actually do, and looking at your schedule and seeing, like, what commitment can I make? Being honest and realistic is going to be a really important thing. Being organized. I love making practice schedules. It's like, when I sit down and practice, I don't want to think about it. I just want to know what I have to do, so I don't have to, like, sweat bullets over what the next move. And right now, actually, I have a stack of music that's like this big, this tall, of stuff that I'm going to play over the next 5 weeks. A lot of chamber music, a bunch of new pieces that I haven't played before, and I made a spreadsheet. I got onto Microsoft Excel. I put them all, and so I have every day, and I can see visibly see, what have I done, what have I not done yet, and then it becomes so much less scary when you can see. And it's also inspiring to see your progress. Like, look at everything that I've done. I don't even have that much left to do. And then at that point, it's just continue working on the things that are still giving you trouble. And of course, there's always things that are going to give us trouble. Like, as long as we can keep being positive towards ourselves, be consistent in the work we're doing, we're not going to make enormous, huge changes overnight. And that's part of the game. Kobe Bryant, what was one of the most amazing things that guy said? He was saying, the process is the journey. Like, the dream is the process of getting to getting to a really high level in whatever it is that you're doing. The process is the dream. It's the whole point of, it's not achieving something. It's building yourself, building the life that you want. The process of doing that is actually, like, the most important and maybe most fulfilling aspect of what we're doing here in music. And I try and remember that too, that just, like, when things aren't going well, like, this is part of it, and the journey is actually maybe the most important part, and it's going to lead us to whatever's going to happen next.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. So let's talk about this stack. What are some of your upcoming performances and projects?
Sure. So I'm going to be playing, I'm one of the co-artistic directors of the Eastern Shore Chamber Music Festival. We just applied to become a 501c3, so long document, filling that out, sending it into the government to to sign off on it. And we're doing 3 weeks of chamber music, 9 different unique concerts. Some of the big pieces are Ned Rorem, 9 episodes for 4 players. We're going to do the Danny Elfman piano, so the quartet, piano quartet.
Huh.
We're doing Dvorak, piano quintet. I'm playing Shostakovich second trio.
Hmm.
Some new chamber music from the Turkish pianist and composer Fazil Say. I'm playing Poulenc, Debussy, and the Ravel duo sonatas all in about 3 weeks. For my
Wow.
recital at UW. I'm playing a Astor Piazzolla opera with at the Milwaukee Symphony next month. It's going to be in May, and I'm playing Verdi Requiem this week at Madison Symphony. We're doing a concert with Gilles Apap, the kind of crossover violinist, next week at Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra. What else? I think that's pretty much it. It's mostly the big chamber stuff coming up next month in May at Eastern Shore. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that is a lot, but it's a good thing we sure love what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I want to recommend again to the viewers out there, go check out Trace's recordings. I think you do a very fine job of changing your sound with the context, you know? So it's not just this is my one sound, you know, not that I mean that's there are a number of people who are able to do that, but I always appreciate it when people clearly get, okay, what is the music calling for, and you make your sound that. And I think you do a good job of that.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that I'm trying to be as flexible as you can be, working with other people, trying to blend is such an important part of what we do. So
Yeah. And the people in this area will be able to go hear some of your concerts live. That'll be great too.
yeah, always fun to see some friendly people I know out there in the crowd. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much, Trace. This has been a lot of fun and super inspiring, I know, for everybody, for not only a intense weekend of practice, but practice all week until we meet back at this time, 5 o'clock next Friday. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
You had me at Cello, Cello, you had me at Cello.